feel free to jump in the chat or just, let us know if there's something you want to talk about. Lauren, did you have something you wanted to talk about?
Just reopening.
Reopening. Same. Yep. Okay. So you guys, I know, have a golf tournament. We talked about that previously. So in person, has your board talked about what your plan is?
We have our first in-person event on May 26th. It's our welcome back party. And we're limiting it to a certain percentage. And we're having people sign a waiver. And it's going to be outside. So we're taking all the precautions. The governor here in New Jersey keeps changing the executive orders just as fast as we're able to absorb them. And the Department of Health guidelines change as well. So we're just going, obviously when we plan the event, we're going with what we had at the time in terms of the regulations. And so far, people are enthusiastic. So we have the welcome back party on May 26th. We have our golf outing. As you know, in June, mid-June, and then the third week in June, we have our awards ceremony from 2020 that we're actually holding a little bit later than we normally we would have done this in February. We're doing it now. And we're dividing that up into two parts. The first half of that is going to be virtual. So we're actually going to announce all the awards on Zoom. And then the next day, we're going to have a cocktail party for the people who won and for other attendees in person, outside again, to kind of celebrate that. And we'll give whoever can come the awards in person, the rest we'll have to send to them. So we're doing what we can, and we're trying to plan during the summer as much as we can with the weather being favorable, and then we'll see, how we head into the fall.
So all those things you mentioned were networking events. So is that your strategy, is you try to do networking in person and then the education, am I correct in assuming that's staying virtual right now?
For the most part, we're exploring potentially doing some education in person, but to the extent it's indoors, the only indoor event we are planning right now is our the trade show, the conference and expo in October, which tentatively we are planning on holding that indoors in person. Subject to limitations on attendance, which we're still working out with the venue, but we are moving forward on that. So, right. So to the extent that there's educational programs, most of that right now is being planned for virtual.
Okay. Are other chapters kind of going back in the same direction? The networking is the in-person that you're starting with, or how are others handling that?
So I guess ours is kind of geared that way. So we're in Maryland, but we have our expo plan to be kind of at the attendees' choice. So we're allowing in-person attendance if they want, and we're kind of split it into two different sessions. So there's a session in the morning that people can register for, or there's a session in the afternoon. They're in their rooms and the speakers are rotating from the room, not the attendees. And then as part of their rotation, the different rooms are released into the expo hall, so that way they can interact with the business partners. So,
interesting.
They're not all in there at the same time, essentially. So it kind of works well, I think, with hoping to get some people back in person on things. So there is the education factor of that they'll be sitting in those rooms and, social distancing and all that jazz. But then we do have some outdoor events planned. We're trying to get like a crab feast going that would be at a park outdoors under a pavilion. And we actually have two of our breakfast seminars scheduled right now to be in person. And they are in September and November, I believe. So
will those be indoors, Gail?
They are, yeah. They're at a hotel, so it's a large area that we can spread out and limit attendees if we have to abide by the distancing. But yeah, we're trying to get them back into person. So, and I think everybody's kind of chomping at the bit here to do that.
Sure. Okay. One of the things we talked about with the executive directors is trying to budget for how many people are coming back in person, how many people are coming back virtual, how do you plan the food and beverage, the extra cost of the AV? Are you guys also talking about that at a board level as well?
We are, yeah. That's all part of our expo thing is, you know, like the different price ranges with being in person versus virtual, the pricing of the AV. So it's all kind of factored in there. So we're kind of, you know, it's the budget, right? So I mean, we're just kind of estimating on how many people are going to be there based on, you know, what we've heard rumor wise, and you know, are kind of gearing that way. But I mean, I will say our business partners are all over the sponsorships right now because, you know, they want that face-to-face time. So I mean, our golf has completely sold out. That's in August. Our expo is almost sold out and we haven't even really advertised for it yet. So yeah, I mean, people are like, and the crab feast that we were, or the, you know, social networking thing that we were working on, that's basically paid for now already from the sponsorships just that are on that committee that are planning it. So
Right.
yeah, we've been really great when it comes to that. I don't know about others, but
Yeah,
With that,
Crystal,
yeah, go ahead, Ed.
hi. We're excited. We have an in-person event next week coming up, and that's an expo. And we're having it at Millrace Village, which is kind of historic little village in Northville, Michigan. And it has a lot of tree-lined lanes and that sort of thing. So it lends itself well to traffic flowing through, to being outdoors. And I mean, yeah, the sponsors filled up immediately.
How are
And
you? How the sponsors I get, you know, they want to be out there. They, you know, want to see people. What I'm hearing though is the managers aren't sure that they want to come out. So has anybody addressed how you're going to get those people there so the business partners are satisfied?
you know, that's been a concern, of course. And my theory on that has been that we want to do something that is so exciting, so open, that shame on you for missing it. To
Try to create some
that,
FOMO, fear of missing
yeah,
out.
you know, create the vibe. And the indications, I mean, you know, Vicky, our CED, is telling me that, you know, we're going to be, the revenue from this is better than expected.
Oh, great.
And attendance better than expected. So far so good. We have to hope for good weather, but we do have a rain out date. But yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, this was a newer idea, just a way of dragging ourselves out of the COVID restrictions. And coincidentally, the word is that on the 24th of May anyway, the governor's going to be lifting just about all restrictions from the indications we're getting. So things are opening up in that regard in terms of those restrictions that have been imposed. The workplace restrictions is one of them that was mentioned specifically to me. So yeah, I hear what you said, Crystal, about, yeah, managers are like, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to come out. I don't know to what extent that might reflect a little tension between employer and employee. You can't make me go. I don't know. So obviously there ain't nothing we can do about that, except I think, you know, get the message out, be positive, and create a sense of excitement that people say, yeah, I'll go there. The golf outing that we're going to have in June, same kind of thing. A lot of interest. We're turning people away. And as things progressively open up more, I don't know that it's out of the question to go back to pre-pandemic levels of participation at the golf outing. So,
Yeah.
You know, Crystal, I mean, my view on this is you can be optimistic or you can not. And I prefer optimism, and it's good when it works.
Yep.
As far as expenses, Our CED has worked out the expenses on the Millrace Village mini expo. Not, that was not something directly done by the board. And then the golf outing, well, that's something there was a template for there. And we have our golf committee, and the golf committee, works on the financial end of that, the costs and charges and everything, with the full cooperation with our CED.
Okay. What about going into 2022? I know we're not even halfway through 2021, but some people have already started talking about, how do we plan for 2022? What does registration look like? Are the sponsored levels going to be there at that point? Have any of your boards started to have those discussions?
I'll jump right back in and say yes, that every board meeting that we have, I include an item on the agenda to revisit and update the strategic plan for this year. And so, yeah, we do that. And part of that is looking ahead to 22 and see how this year's plan interrelates to the next. And of course it does. One of the things that we were looking to do at the end of this year, but we need to push it to next year, is to hold a year-end holiday gala ball. And I have some questions for other presidents today regarding that. But, we were talking before we kind of got together at a little tavern or something, and everybody, wished each other happy holidays and went their way. And I wanted to do something to like really go big with the message. And so the idea behind our holiday gala, and I think, it will require an awful lot of pre-planning, would be to, do something, maybe black tie, and get it out big, but partner with a charity, and to make it about the charity, not about us. And so what we'll do is say, the Crystal Wallace Foundation is,
I'm all on board with that charity.
and to reach out to the media,
Yeah.
to the regional, local media, and say, here's what CAI is, and we're working with this charity, and we're going to have really pretty people here and dressed up, have music and everything.
We did talk, I think it was the last time, about charities and, really trying to focus in on those that also, affect our mission as well. So I don't know if you've talked anything about that, Ed, but some housing related or homeless or something of that sort, to kind of bridge the gap with the mission.
I actually talked with my partner, Greg Fiorito, yesterday, who's also happens to be the chair of the LAC for Michigan, that he came up with, a suggestion along the lines of yours in terms of what that charity would be, and said, for example, some housing thing like, what's that place that goes and builds houses?
Habitat for Humanity.
Habitat for Humanity. And I was like, well, that makes sense. People are familiar with them as a charity, and one hand washes the other. People don't know who CAI is on a broader level. They know who Habitat is, but if we can do this for their benefit, we'll have the benefit of greater recognition. People say,
Sure.
Okay, I heard of them, and this is cool.
Yeah.
So that's the strategic thinking going on there. And
Awesome.
A lot of it's mine at this point, and I'm kind of nursing things along, but it will be the end of next year.
Got it.
This year's planning has to include that, because I think it's going to take all that time to do a first time thing on that order.
Big event.
Or maybe
there's definitely other chapters that have done black tie type events. So I would, encourage you or Vicky to reach out to some other chapters as well as you go down that path.
Yeah, I was going to ask, any of the presidents in attendance today, have they done that kind of event? John?
We did a
We did.
we did a black tie for our 40th anniversary, which at this point I think was 4 or 5 years ago. And it was in a place in Center City, Philadelphia, and it was really well attended. We actually sold out pretty quickly, sponsorships and attendees. It was fairly, it wasn't too much more expensive than what we normally did, but it was definitely a separate event. And like you said, it was for the 40th anniversary.
We did something similar too a couple years ago. We had I think ours was 40 as well. But we had a similar event, and it was, I think people liked it a lot because, I don't know, I feel like some people just enjoy the moment to get dressed up and be fancy for an evening. And I mean, everybody really enjoyed it. We had a band and we had a DJ, and we had, again, plenty of sponsorships that pretty much covered a lot. So, it kept the price down for, the guests. And I think we maxed out, I want to say, or sold out of the event as well, which was great. But everybody had a great time. It was great feedback. It was just a nice evening to relax and hang out.
Cool.
It's been a long
This is really encouraging to me, Crystal.
Yeah.
So it's been a long-standing tradition in Minnesota that we do an end of the year holiday gala. Button out.
Nope, you're good. We can hear you, Josh.
My internet thing. Yeah, we do it every year in December. We didn't do it last year, of course, but we kind of combine a number of events with it. We call it the annual holiday gala, but it's our annual meeting. It's the Vision Awards. It's always a black tie event. And then we also always intertwine some sort of charitable giving, like Toys for Tots is a common thing. We'll do a Toys for Tots drive usually to coincide with it. But it's something that our chapter, all of our managers and business partners, everyone looks forward to every December is this big event. We spend a lot of money doing it, but we always have more than enough sponsorship dollars to carry the event through. So it's definitely worthwhile doing.
How are you all handling wireless payment transactions at events for those of you who are opened up? Does anybody have a great solution, or maybe not thought of that yet? Josh is like, nope, haven't even thought of it.
They register ahead of time. I don't even think, like, for that party on the golf outing is not an issue because it's primarily partners. So it's that party we're having on the 26th. I believe we're doing it all ahead of time. The registration and we're capping it. So we're gonna cap out no on-site registrations.
I have heard that many chapters saying that you have to register in advance. So maybe this hasn't been explored yet. Maybe this is new.
We use our CED has a square reader. So it's like books or whatever. I mean, at the education luncheons, but all of the events, they're billed up front or invoiced, so most of the payments are handled up front, but we do have the capability to take payment when we have our annual Christmas party, sort of silent auction-ish, what pennies, I don't know what they call it now, whatever legally you're allowed to call it. So I'll say that. But they do have a way for people to buy tickets to put in different bags, and that's handled through a square reader on a cell phone.
Okay.
We just recently did a baseball game, and we were thrilled. We had 43 attendees, most of which I would say 70% was business partners, but we were very happy with the attendance, and we did everything in advance.
Okay. You did all of that in advance. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, what else is on people's minds today?
One of the things, Crystal, that we're looking at, as you know, we have joined forces with Tucson, and we have a small, which I think is great, professionalism and visibility and exposure for the Tucson market. That we have a little, not a virtual, but a little, how you
Satellite
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, a little satellite office that's involved with other offices where you can have a little office for $300 a month and access to a little conference room, and you have a phone, you know, a place to call home. You have a corporate identity to operate out of. You're not operating out of a trailer. And we view that as enhanced image and marketing and growing the Tucson chapter, which has then led us to that fairly expensive rent that we're locked in with a lease in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of traffic flow in there. It's more the ED and the associate ED get out amongst, the business partners and events. So, not unfortunately, it's just a fact of business. We've tried to downsize that office and the landlord's been uncooperative. So we're kind of stuck into that. I think it's for another 2-year lease, but one of our strategic plans is to, reduce that. I think it's $2,500, reduce that fixed cost of rent and come into a smaller, different platform, but still giving the staff an office and the space and the tools to operate out of. So, we're looking at potential, could be $18,000 a year savings. Now, we don't want our ED and staff to go, totally virtual and operate from home, because there are situations, and I think it's an image issue too. We need to have an identity. So that's a flip side of what I'm going to call a forced look at that kind of expense and that platform. No different than some place. No different than some place.
The landlord that is such a narrow-minded. I mean, I get it. They want to make sure they get as many people to pay their lease because the commercial space has been really hard on properties. But we had a office in a different area of town for a time, and we did the co-working space and it worked really well. I mean, your name's on the marquee. Of course, it's electronic, so they can swap out whoever's there. And you have a small office. You can use the conference room for a fee if you need it, that kind of thing. And that worked, did work really well.
Yeah.
Is anyone else evaluating space at this juncture?
We are. We actually were able to sublease our space that we had. There was a company that had an office area right next to ours that actually could connect to ours. And their business exploded. I think they were somewhere in the IT world. So obviously with everything going virtual last year, theirs completely exploded, and they had some government contracts and stuff. So they needed more space, and we were like, hey, we have space. So they ended up subleasing from us, which is great for the rest of our lease. So we kind of are taking this year to pretty much regroup and reassess, rethink about, what we want the next office space to look like. So our staff is operating out of their homes, but they use shared space when they need to come together, to handle the events and stuff like that.
This is Troy.
So that's
sorry, he missed you. Yeah, sorry. Hold on, let me mute something.
That's great, Gail. I'm glad to hear that's worked out for you guys, so you can reevaluate what makes sense.
Just Crystal, just on the flip side, I'm going to reverse the common sense of getting back into the box. We had a business partner, an attorney, offer office space for the CAI satellite office in lieu of some trade for some sponsorship. And Kate and I discussed that offline, and we led to the conclusion that even though from a financial standpoint it might be attractive, from a business perception though, to be under that umbrella and how it would look outside the box to the rest of the business partners, that you're actually located in the office as a business partner, that's where I tie a bow around the box and lock it up, and it didn't happen.
No, I can understand that.
We were offered that opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely, I'm glad you guys really considered that and came up with the best solution for you.
It was just not a good look.
Yeah, no, I can see that sometimes
on a
that
permanent basis.
Yeah, that perception definitely is something people should consider for sure. Okay, one other question that's popped up in the chat is growing homeowner leader membership. So has anybody been successful recently with encouraging homeowner membership? I'm getting my words tangled today.
It's one of our strategic goals, for the year. We didn't have a whole big list, but this is the one that's really outstanding. So management companies sometimes are reluctant to invite their homeowner leaders to events and education luncheons because they don't want them to be poached, or the thought of, other managers speaking to them. So, we've tried to, without putting a policy in place, sort of communicate in a kind way, stay away from somebody else's client. But, mailings and newspaper, ads, things like that in the newspapers that get dropped on your driveway. I'm sure everybody has those in the area that you don't pay for. They just end up being recycling, or you drive over them until there's nothing left. So we just need some new ideas. If anybody has been successful, it would be really helpful to hear.
We just purchased what's called a sunshine list here in Florida. And we are planning our expo for the fall. So I think we're going to be sending out some postcards, just trying to mix up some different ways of reaching out to people. We are in the exact position you are, Teresa, with trying to grow that portion of our business. And it's just not, again, it's just not something that you get a lot of buy-in from the CAMs, the property management companies. So we actually also just came up with an idea of having our business partners do some reach out when they're out and about, or they actually have contacts. So for an example, I just had a meeting with a board president and I talked to her about CAI, and then I had our CED follow up with her so she could, potentially join or have the whole board join. But I honestly think that it's literally one touch at a time, which is a very slow process of growing. But that might be the way to get, sustaining members, depending on how long they're on their boards. So,
yeah, or at least get the contact information of where we could send some information, kind of thing.
Right.
We certainly don't want to spam anyone.
Right.
But, and Pilar, where do you purchase the Sunshine List? I mean, just through a direct marketing company, or do they?
No, it's through the state.
Okay.
So it's the list of all of the, so there's 2 lists that you can buy in Florida, and you can buy the list of CAMs through our DVPR.
Yep.
And then the Sunshine List is a list, and you have to do an enormous amount of work to vet it.
Sure.
To get the actual home addresses. I mean, it is an enormous amount of work.
Okay.
But
I've heard that from other chapters as well, not just in Florida, but around the country, that some of those lists take a lot of time.
Right.
Yeah.
Ed, you have your hand up. You want to go ahead?
Thank you. Pilar's comment that, to get members from that group is hopelessly tedious because it's one touch at a time. And it's like, yeah, I think that's true. We find that business partners and community association managers find us. There's a vibe there that just brings them in, and they see the advantage. My theory on this matter is this is where we need to reach out to have a broader media presence. And that's one of the strategies behind the gala event, coupled with a charity, would be that will be big enough and about somebody else, the charity, so that we can talk to the local media about what we're doing and generate some interest on their part to look into it. And then that sort of exposure will make us a little more known in the general populace, which I think is a good way to reach those members other than one touch at a time. So a chance for a real big touch with that, and that's my theory, and that's why I'm pursuing that kind of activity.
So one other thought, and haven't had success with this as of yet, but our attorney groups obviously do a lot of education with homeowner leaders for both condos and HOAs. So we've asked if they would be willing to send an electronic copy of our postcard for save the date for the expo. And then, you know, you'll get a few emails from those groups because people will subscribe to your content. So that's, you know, just another small way, but again, through the business partner channel.
The Heartland chapter does something interesting with their trade show. They actually hold a homeowner only education session. And so only homeowners are in there, and it's usually a legal session because that's the one that they all want to go to. They all want free legal advice. But during that time, the managers are in the trade show with the, you know, the business partners and everything, and it's a dedicated time just for them. After the education session is over, they bring all of the homeowners directly into the trade show area to meet up with their managers if they have them, and they recommend for their managers to walk around to the business partners with their homeowners. So it's kind of showing that partnership to it, and it's been very successful for them. They also have like a bring a friend type of thing, so the homeowners can invite another homeowner leader that they might know through other networks or things like that, and give them a complimentary pass to come and attend, and get access then to the trade show as well to help kind of spread the word with that. So you know, that might be something if you guys are interested in, is having your CED or something connect with the Heartland chapter.
I think our especially our attorney business partners that do a lot of webinars and have a lot of, you know, obviously that's how they make their bread and butter. They have a lot of community association boards and communities that they're under contract with. I'm throwing around the idea of a one annual, I mean, these volunteer board members put in a lot of time and a lot of energy, and it's a thankless job. I mean, I have a community volunteer luncheon for 150 volunteers. I'm fortunate I'm able to underwrite it by a corporate sponsor, but I'd like to see us do an annual event where we partner with our business partner attorneys who have those lists and have an annual appreciation of what they do for the industry. And as part of that, we have a little PowerPoint infomercial marketing campaign for 10 minutes. That's the price you pay to come to happy hour and get a few hors d'oeuvres and a cocktail, is you've got to listen to our little splurge for 10 minutes. I have a very active board. They're all members of CAI. They love going to the website, looking at all the educational material. They love getting the common ground. And some of them that have just recently joined, new board members, were not aware of the organization and the plethora of knowledge and information and camaraderie that we as a CAA entity nationally and locally bring to them. So that might be a way for you all to consider marketing. You approach it with, hey, thank you for all the effort you do the industry, and you get yourself a little 10-minute infomercial plug on a PowerPoint and expose CAI to them.
Hey, Troy, I saw, oh, I have feedback. Sorry about that. Troy, I saw your hand up. I'm not sure if you're still there, if you had something you wanted to say. Oh, maybe he's not there anymore. Okay. I know I've talked to several chapters about, you know, this same conversation. This is always a conversation. One of the takeaways that I always hear is make it easy for your managers, management companies, and business partners to sell CAI, and whatever that may be. It's probably going to be different in different markets, but it might be talking points, it might be a little video clip, it might be a brochure, or something of that sort that they can hand out, something they can slip into a board packet. But everybody's so busy. So how do you make it easy for them to share CAI? I know some business partners I speak to, they're like, oh my God, I have so many clients and I don't think they're all CAI members. I hadn't thought about it. It's not that they don't want to help, they just don't, they're busy in their own world and don't really think about it. Okay, we are coming up on 1:48. Want to be mindful of time, but I'm happy to stay on for a couple more minutes if there's anything else. Otherwise, we'll check in next month. As always, it's good to see you all and talk with you all and have this opportunity to share.